Court in Eswatini has rejected a bid by the country's leading LGBTQI rights group for official recognition. In Eswatini, homosexuality is still banned. Eswatini Gender Minorities say the judges continually state that the organization wants to sell sex to the public. Sisanda Mavimbela says this is nowhere found in the mandate and vision of the organization. Eswatini Gender Minorities aims to protect, promote and advance LGBTQI rights. The country's High Court in the capital Mbambani ruled that the real purpose of the NGO, which fights for access to care for LGBTQI people, is to spread information about same-sex sexual practices and condemn the publicity of such issues. Let's speak now to Sisanda Mavimbela, the Executive Director of Eswatini Gender Minorities. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Let's just start with a bit of background on the court bid. How long has it been going, and what were the grounds that it was rejected by the High Court?
Thank you, Tabitha, and thank you for having me. We have had a court case against the registrar that refused to register Eswatini sexual and gender minorities. The case has been going on for about 13 months, and we have been waiting for the judgment for the last 18 months. That was ruled on last Friday.
And perhaps some clarity on what exactly you were seeking.
Eswatini sexual and gender minorities was seeking to simply register an organization in order to protect and advance the protection of rights of LGBTI persons in the country. We were seeking only just registration under the freedom of association.
Now, you are obviously seeking to form an organization that will protect the rights of, promote the rights of same-sex and people. Does that also include transgender, as in the full spectrum of LGBTQI? And I know there are other alphabets after that, but I just want to understand, is it limited?
No, it is not. It is LGBTQIA and all the other alphabets that are involved within the other community.
Okay. The reason I ask this is because I know that sodomy was a crime under the 1907 common law, punishable with either death or a lesser punishment of discretion of the court. And it's got its own definition. Has there been any evolution since such laws were enacted?
No, in Swaziland, that common law still stands. The common law of 1907 still stands in Swaziland, and that is exactly why we want to register an organization that is going to protect, because much as the government may say they don't act on it, however, that still stands as a boot on the neck to the LGBTIQ community, because as long as it is in writing in black and white, it can be used anytime. So, okay, I also understand that there are no laws necessarily restricting the discussion or the promotion of LGBTQI plus topics. So you can discuss it, but then you don't acknowledge it in the legal prescripts. Is that what you're saying? Yes, they don't acknowledge it legally, and obviously have refused for us to even associate in order to discuss matters of LGBTQI in the country. Therefore, they say that it's immoral, not religious, according to Christianity, I guess.
Now, the population of Swaziland, has it moved behind those restrictive or oppressive laws? Because it's one thing to discuss the reality, but if that reality is not followed up by the laws of the country, it's almost as if you're discussing ghost situations.
Sorry, did you please start on again?
I was saying the population of Swaziland. So it's one thing to discuss something, but if it's not recognized by law, it's almost as if you are speaking of ghost entities' existence. So I'm just trying to rationalize. It's one thing to talk about something, but it's not recognized by law. The people of Swaziland themselves, do they see this chasm, and is it something that they too believe needs to change?
Of course. I mean, especially because of the current political stance in the country. We are seeking for equality. We are seeking for democracy, and that obviously means inclusion of all the populations, of all the people within the population of Swaziland.
So let's just look at some of the laws that would obviously disempower those who identify under these binary or non-binary classifications. So same-sex adoption in Eswatini, I suppose that is nothing but a pipe dream if same-sex couples are not recognized.
Yes, there are no laws that recognize the LGBT. There's currently no legislation protecting or recognizing LGBTI or LGBTI persons in the country. Anything to do with same-sex relations in the country, there are no laws. There's no legislation that recognizes same-sex relations in the country.
And those who feel comfortable with being open about how they identify, do they face discrimination in areas of employment or even in housing?
Definitely, which is why it is important for the registration of the organization, that it has nothing to do with this. They should stop sexualizing LGBTI. However, it has to do with the protection of employment, the unemployed, their basic human rights like staying at home, because many LGBTI people are chased away from home in Swaziland. Many aren't allowed in schools and are chased from schools, and majority of them are not employed, because if the government sends the hatred and the division and still said on Friday that we shouldn't register, it means they're still saying don't employ LGBTI people, don't allow LGBTI people within schools, don't allow LGBTI people in your homes. So on a daily basis, that is what the LGBTI community has been faced by in the country, and we cannot protect them if we are not a registered institution.
Are people openly discriminated against, and I mean even in violent forms, for coming out?
Yes, we do have, of course, in a homophobic country we have hate crimes, we have sort of rape, we even have corrective rape cases, we have violence against LGBTI people in the country. And these are cases that don't see the day of light. They don't see justice because they are still not recognized. And as soon as you report such a case, you're told that we don't recognize what you're talking about. That is illegal in the country.
So while you may have support outside of the country and internationally, what would be your next step in terms of fighting for recognition or even the right to exist if the courts have been fobbing off any attempts to do so? What is the next step that is available to you?
The next step that is available to the organization is to appeal the judgment, which we got on Friday, and that is exactly what we tend to do as an organization.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us. Sisanda Mavimbela is the Executive Director of Eswatini Gender Minorities. As we've just mentioned, they've just lost a bid in the High Court in Mbabane to be recognized in order to fight for the rights of the LGBTQI+ community.